Let's take you to news on the go now. The Minister in the Presidency for Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation is currently speaking at the G20 Development Working Group meeting that's taking place at the Kruger National Park. Delegates there are from all over the world and have gathered to talk about how countries can work together to improve public services and raise money for developmental projects. The Minister is currently speaking. Let's listen in.
There was a recognition of the urgent need to redesign contributory social insurance system to meet the realities and the needs of informal and atypical workers. Members are also excited about the emerging research of the economic multiplier effect of social security spending, which can make social security schemes partially self-financing, and have committed to undertaking further research in this regard. We recognize the greater vulnerability and hence the need to greater protection of women, and also sought, where appropriate, to use social protection to catalyze access to employment through active labor market strategies. We're also committed to drawing further on the advantages of digitalization through the Digital Convergence Initiative under the Global Partnership of Universal Social Protection to achieve the SDGs, while being mindful not to exacerbate inequalities through the digital divide. To uphold our commitment and transform discussion into meaningful action, we have empowered the Social Protection Interagency Board, which is also called the SPACB, in partnership with the ILO, to monitor and annually report to the G20 DWG on the progress made in realizing this call for action. Your Excellency, social protection must not be seen as charity, but as a cornerstone of development which fosters economic vitality, social unity, as well as gender parity, but most of all as an investment. Currently, investment in social protection remains dangerously low, with over 75% of low-income countries spending more on debt servicing than on their health care. Over 50% of low-income countries spend more on debt than on education. We need to shape our society to understand social protection as an investment in human capital, which can be leveraged as a tool of inclusive growth and transformation of the economy, and as well as our labor markets. Therefore, it is important to integrate social protection policies into national economic growth and empowerment strategies, as well as decent work, agricultural, rural, and industrial policies, and initiatives that support labor market transformation, gender equality, and empowerment of women, youth, and definitely persons with disabilities. It is due to this consideration that despite its fiscal constraints, South Africa has chosen to invest in human capital and human dignity. Nearly 60% of South Africans' non-interest public expenditure is allocated to the social wage, which encompasses the following: free education, school meals, primary health care for all, and essential public services such as housing, electricity, water, and sanitation. The second, it is the non-contributory income support for vulnerable groups, including children, the elderly, and persons with disability. This was expanded, of course, during the COVID-19 pandemic to support those who did not have an income at that particular time. Thirdly, the public employment programs targeting women and youth as primary beneficiaries. In parallel, contributory social security mechanisms such as the compensation fund, the road accident fund, and the unemployment insurance fund extended protection even to informal and atypical workers, including domestic workers. Research suggests that there are benefits to girls that are no longer at school, while recipients of child support grants perform well at school, among other examples. Your Excellencies, while the demand for the SDGs financing escalates, official development flows and domestic fiscal capacities remain insufficient. Blended financing has mobilized only $230 billion to date, with at least developed countries receiving a paltry 6%. This underscores the imperative to strengthen domestic resources mobilization to curb illicit financial flows decisively. The IFF remains a critical challenge for many countries, especially the developing and low-income countries. Although inherently difficult to quantify, estimates suggest that the IFFs amount to at least
Apologies for that. We seem to have lost our connection to Minister in the Presidency for Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation in Marubeni Ramokgopa, who's speaking at the G20 Development Working Group meeting. This is part of several G20 meetings, of course, in the lead up to the main summit set to take place in November this year, where heads of states are planned to gather in Johannesburg. So far, she's spoken about the multiplier effect of social spending. It seems at the corner of my eye I can see that we're able to re-establish that connection. I'm just going to try and see if we are able to go back to the minister who's still speaking. Let's continue listening in.
G20 to adopt an even more development-centered approach to financing integrity, grounded in transparency, fairness, and capacity support. Cheers. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, as far back as 2016, G20 leaders pledged to intensify effort to combat IFFs, including trade misinvoicing, a major obstacle to mobilizing domestic resources. In 2025, the DWG took a strategic step forward by consolidating work on the IFFs, building on previous presidencies and aligning with the SDGs target 16.4. Today, we present a framework of high-level principles designed to serve as a foundation for systematic action, including enhancing global financial transparency, promoting data integrity and exchange, addressing tax avoidance, tax evasion, and tax crimes, and tackle illicit financial flows, enhancing multilateral cooperation, implementing accountability mechanism, and promote policy coherence, building and strengthening capacity, promoting international cooperation and collaboration, including to the recovery of stolen assets, promoting and improving existing anti-IFF policy implementation, as well as promoting innovative technologies. This principle, ladies and gentlemen, are further reinforced by the landmark Seville outcome document from the 4th Conference of Financing for Development, which calls for the following: a renewed global compact on financing sustainable development grounded in fairness and long-term resilience, reform of the international financial architecture, including increased concessional finance and reallocation of special drawing rights, stronger national financing frameworks to align domestic and private investment with the SDGs, as well as expanding fiscal space through enhanced domestic resources mobilization and the curbing of the IFFs. As I conclude, Your Excellencies, it is worth mentioning that there were very intense debates on the optimal provision of protection and financing of global public goods. The COVID-19 pandemic taught us valuable lesson that we need to deal differently with global public goods that are non-excludable and non-viral and have cross-border externalities. I hope that moving forward, there will be work done through the Ubuntu Commission for those interested G20 countries. It really cannot be business as usual. Your Excellencies, let us seize this moment. Let our declaration not be merely a statement of intent, but a strategic instrument of transformation. Let it reflect the voices and priorities of the Global South. Let it honor the compromiso de Seville and advance the momentum of the FFD4. Above all, let it embody the enduring values of Nelson Mandela of solidarity, courage, justice, and the unshakable belief in the dignity of all humanity. I look forward to our deliberation and to collective endorsement of a declaration that will chart a bold and equitable path towards sustainable development for all. I thank you. Let me take this opportunity, of course, Your Excellencies.
All right, you've been listening to Marupeni Ramakgopa, the Minister in the Presidency for Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. She's speaking at the Kruger National Park where the G20 Development Working Group meeting is currently underway. It's about investing in projects that will ultimately move nations towards sustainable development goals. And of course, that involves a whole host of initiatives, so to speak. You can see there in frame Nhlamulo, the Premier of Mpumalanga, speaking. We'll continue listening into that for you throughout the course of the morning, getting you a sense of the salient points that emerge from that gathering.